Once you get a taste of it, once you get used to it, it becomes easier for you to look at the these so-called simpler ones also. Okay. So let us look at this again. I think, yeah, the host is here. I'll share my screen with you. Just a minute.
Ma'am, I have one doubt.
Please go ahead.
Could you please tell me the difference between the noun clause, adjectival clause, and adverbial clause? Because while finding out the sentence in
Yes.
sentence,
Sorry.
so I got confused in adjectival and adverbial clause.
So see, adjectival clause, always remember, they are the ones which would modify the nouns, right? So they will add some form of description or additional information about the noun, right? So those are, so see, in case you have a relative clause, there's a separate name for that. I did not use the term relative clause because it should, I think, come up at a later stage or somewhere. So relative clauses are essentially adjectival clauses. So if you have connectors like who, where, when, which, etc. Also that is also like a very important relative clause joiner. All of them will do the functions of adjectival clause. We can give you definitions like this, but the thing is, it doesn't help anybody. The subordinate clause, then most probably they are subordinate clauses. This is a very shoddy way of explaining things in grammar. Grammar is mostly about, you guys can hear me, right? Because I get a message saying your internet connection is unstable. Am I still audible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. Just let me know if the voice breaks or anything. I'll do some adjustment. Usually nothing of the sort happens, but whenever there's a session, the Wi-Fi acts very fun. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, what I was saying is you can be given what we call as tips, but they don't help in the real learning process. In grammar, keep in mind that everything is related to function. So once you identify how a particular segment or an element in the sentence functions, what its role in that particular sentence is, we are good to go. Why we are not able to do is that we don't focus clearly and hard enough on the functions in the sentence of the segments, right? Once you do that, it becomes easier. It takes some time, but again, as I said, comes through practice. You'll have to practice at least, say, 10 sentences every day to understand. You don't have to pick anything from anywhere. Even the things that you read, if you read a book for studying some other subjects, you can utilize that time to learn English as well, right? So this is something that you use. This is a medium. It's a language. Since you study every other subject in that language, it is not very difficult for you to find samples to study. You can even use them if it is too difficult for you to run around and find some material for yourself. So look through all of them, and then you'll understand how to do it. Okay, but practice is the key. It won't come to you as quickly as you think. You will have to sit with it for a while. You have to engage with it for a longer time. And once you get a grasp of how these different elements function, you will understand it better. With respect to adjectival clauses, like I said, their function is mostly to talk about nouns, modify them. The last last week we did this example, right? Where is it? You can all see the screen, no? This 12th one, right? Drugs that are used in chemotherapy. We have already boldened the subordinate clause for you, that are used in chemotherapy. Now, what does that particular chunk of the sentence talk about? What is its function?
Adding more information about drugs.
Is that Kalyani speaking? I did not really catch. I think Kalyani had a doubt, right? So
yes, ma'am.
Kalyani.
So basically, I had doubt.
So if you look at it, the other person who answered, you're right. Sorry?
No, ma'am, you can continue.
So if you look at that sentence carefully, you see that are used in chemotherapy, that is your subordinate clause. What is it doing? What is it talking about? Is it telling you about how or why or condition or time or place, or is it standing in place of something else, or is it adding additional information, or is it giving some extra information about something? What role do you think that particular clause is performing there?
Adding additional information
About what?
about drugs.
About drugs, right? Now, what is the category of the word class for the word drugs?
It's a noun.
Is it a noun or a verb or an adjective or an adverb? What
Noun.
is it?
Noun.
Noun, right? So anything that adds any extra information about a noun is what? What adds information to noun? What can modify noun?
Adjectives.
Adjective, right? So that clause, the whole chunk that you see there, it acts as a, it performs the role of an adjective, and hence it is an adjectival clause. Get that? Yes, Kalyani?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, in case of your adverbial clause, the things change, right? So let's look at another sentence that we practiced last week, which is 15th one. See, when a heart attack occurs, the electronic device automatically produces charges of electricity that jolt the heart back into normal rhythm, right? Since it's already emboldened, we don't have to now sit and guess about what the subordinate clause is. So you have two subordinate clauses here. When a heart attack occurs, and that jolt the heart back into normal rhythm. Look at both of them carefully and tell me what do they do in the sentence. When a heart attack occurs, what do you think it is indicative of? No idea. Whenever
It produces the charge of
you
electricity.
use the word when a heart attack occurs.
Time.
No, I'm asking what time, right? Time. So what can talk about time among the three kind of clauses that we have discussed? Noun clause cannot. Adjectival clause cannot. It's adverbial clause which talks about time, right? So that becomes your adverbial clause, right? Now, if you look at the second one, so it could be either about time, it could be about place, or it could be about how refers to the manner in which the verb has happened, right? Or it could be about certain conditions or reasons or purpose, okay? All of this, if any of the subordinate clause can answer questions related to these, right? Time, place, manner, degree, or conditions, reasons, purpose, all of them would be adverbial in nature, okay? Because it's adverbs that can talk about all of these, right? Even otherwise, if you look at the parts of speech of adverb does all these function. And which makes when a heart attack occurs something that is directly related about time and hence an adverbial clause, right? Now that jolt the heart back into a normal rhythm. What kind of clause would that be, Kalyani?
That is adverbial clause.
Last one. Why is it an adverbial clause?
Because it tells about the time of first sentence, and in the second sentence,
Not the second sentence. I'm talking about the second clause in the 15th sentence. That jolt the heart back into a normal rhythm.
that is a manner.
No, let her answer. No, she had that doubt. Let her clarify it.
That is adverbial clause for
That
the
jolt the heart back
manner.
into rhythm.
Yes, the manner. It shows the manner.
Really? Read that again. Read the whole sentence again and see.
When a heart attack occurs, the electronic device automatically produces the charges of electricity that jolt the heart attack back into a normal rhythm. So in the first subordinate clause, it shows the time.
Yes, that's right.
So it is a adverbial clause, but in
Yeah.
the second sentence that jolt the heart attack back into the normal rhythm. So that is manner or purpose?
Not manner. You're not reading it properly even now. See, the electronic device automatically produces charges of electricity that jolt the heart back into normal rhythm. So what is the subordinate clause talking about? It is adding additional information about the charges of electricity, right?
Yes.
Charges of electricity that jolt the heart back into normal rhythm. Okay, it does not answer any question about manner or how, right? So this you need to keep in mind. Okay, first of all, have a good understanding of what each segment is, right? So last time I've told you, whenever you have a sentence to be discussed as subordinate clause or something, your first instinct should be to divide that sentence into three elements, namely subject, verb, and the object, or say subject and predicate of the sentence, right? Start your analysis like that, and then you understand it better. You'll be able to, this is because subordinate clause is just a small element of the larger sentence. Your analysis has to be on that. And if that has to happen, you'll certainly have to break down your sentence. Okay, otherwise, sometimes you're not able, you won't be able to even identify the subordinate clause. So first, do that, and then think about, what is this talking about. In case of adjectival clauses, if it helps you, I do not give you these kind of tips because this can break at some points. But keep in mind that adjectival clauses, they're always found closer to the nouns that they modify. They cannot be separated from each other. So like charges of electricity followed by the adjectival clause that jolt the heart back into normal rhythm. Or in a previous example that we had, drugs that are used in chemotherapy, again, drugs followed by the adjectival clause that are used in chemotherapy. The 13th center again is an example of adjectival clause. The doctors battled a deadly virus fueled by a lackadaisical public. Again, fueled by a lackadaisical public is your adjectival clause followed by the noun virus, right? So all of this, in the case of adjectival clause, that particular clause would follow your noun. They'll be closely located to each other since one has to modify the other. You can keep this in mind when you're analyzing, but don't take this as a foolproof method to analyze also, right? Not necessary all the time that it could be like that, but most of the time that is how it is, okay? Kalyani, do you understand that? You need more practice with this, Kalyani, okay? You need to analyze the sentences carefully. You'll have to look at the segments separately and then understand what each of them mean, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's do a few more today and you will understand. I see some question in the chat. I'll just quickly look at it and come. This is Ram dedicatedly did his homework, which was hard. Why is there a question mark after that? You're just asking. Okay, now Ram dedicatedly did his homework, which was hard. Yeah, what kind of clause will this be?
Adjective here.
It has to be adjectival, right? Homework, which was hard. So, which was hard is the clause which modifies your homework. It tells, it gives you additional information about homework. Homework, which was hard. So that's an example of adjectival clause, okay?
Ma'am, I have a question there. Can
Yes.
we remove that dedicated?
Can you remove that dedicated? It's not dedicated,
Ram
it is dedicatedly. Dedicatedly, it should be not dedicative. Dedicatedly? No. Either dedicatively
Dedicated.
or dedicated.
Can I remove that? And
Dedicatedly is wrong.
isn't
You can
that
remove.
adding
Adverbs are not compulsory
extra
elements.
information? Okay.
Adverbs are always to add additional in. They are all modifiers. No, adjectives and adverbs are not compulsory elements of sentences. Their work is to modify. Even if you remove dedicatedly that word there, it does not. Let me just clarify. It's getting to my nose. It's not dedicatedly for sure, but I have to check if it is dedicatively or dedicative. Dedicated is correct. Dedicative is also correct. Dedicatively. Where did you get this sentence from, Purnendu? Is it there in the practice assignment or something?
No, it's not in the practice assignment or anyone. Last night while I was practicing, I created this sentence myself only and checked
Okay.
that means it is a right sentence, I guess, because Google shows the result for it. And by Google, it says that
Okay, dedicatively is the
we
right way
can't
to use
remove.
that. Okay, not dedicative.
Yeah. So I have just one question. Can I remove that word?
You can remove.
Okay.
Anything that
Thanks,
is a modifier in a sentence can be taken out. It's not a
So
problem.
it is a
Because it's
modifier, but it is a complement or an adjunct here.
Ram dedicatively did his homework, which was hard. Adverbs are adjuncts.
Adjuncts.
Yes.
So I think that it is an adjunct, so we can remove it because complement we
If it
can't
is an
remove.
unnecessary, it is optional, then it has to be an adjunct. Correct. If it's a complement, you can't remove
Okay,
it. Only adjuncts can be removed.
Yes. Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. So I don't know if you've seen this document already. This is an easy one. I'm not going to discuss compound sentences. Usually it's, they are ones which are joined together with coordinating conjunctions, right? Like and, or, but are the most commonly used coordinating conjunctions. There are a few more. Let us leave this. We don't have to look at this again. I have doubt in graded assignment question. If the dates have passed for it, you can ask it. If it is still on due, then let's not discuss it, Shreya.
It is past, ma'am,
Past, then
tomorrow.
you can ask. Then you can ask.
In week 2, ma'am, there was a question to find the number of adjuncts in a sentence. So the sentence is, the book with the blue cover on the shelf in the drawing room is the one that you gave me. So here, I mean, adjunct is something that is not very important, right? It can be removed from a sentence to even then the meaning of the sentence would be intact. So I thought there would be two, but
meaning and more than meaning, the sentence remains grammatical.
Yes. So there were given, I thought that would be 2, but the answer is given as 3. So I'm not understanding what are the 3 adjuncts are.
Book with the blue cover.
The book with the blue cover on the shelf in the drawing room is the one that you gave me.
There are 3, no? With the blue cover on
with the blue
the shelf
cover
in the drawing room. 3. Yeah,
but
with the blue cover. See, what is it? The book is the one you gave me, right? What is the last part after in the drawing room? Is the
one that you gave me.
The book is the one that you gave me. Is this a grammatical sentence? This is okay, right? You have a subject, you have a verb, and you have the predicate. I mean, you have the object too, which is a clause in this case. So the book is the one that you gave me is a good sentence.
Okay, I thought it isn't
It's a
a good
grammatical sentence. So everything else that comes becomes a sorry.
I thought that it didn't make a good sentence. I didn't
No, it
realize
is.
it
The
was
book is the
okay.
one that you gave me. Okay.
Okay.
Sentence, no problem. The book is the one that you gave me. No problem. Is that okay?
Okay, ma'am.
So with the blue cover, then what is that? In the drawing room, and there's one more thing on the shelf, right? So all 3 of them are your adjuncts.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So okay, we go straight to functions of subordinate clauses. This one you can check when you get, I mean, this document is already uploaded. Please go through this part. This is an exercise in combining the, sentences using coordinator. This is easy. You can check it. The only thing you need to keep in mind is what they've said. Wherever possible, avoid repetition by omitting words or using pronouns. This one is particularly with respect to the prose and writing part than grammar. Grammar does not bring about much of a change even if you repeat, but when you write, we know that repetition and using unnecessary words and pronouns and all are not, it's not appreciated. It's from that point of view, but try to solve this. Is an easy one actually. Look at it when you have the document. We'll look at the functions of subordinate clauses. I see that a lot of you still do not understand what it is. So we'll spend some more time with it. I am not sure, Tanu, JCNS field, because I cannot tell you if it is helpful unless I've gone through the contents. But grammar books can confuse you. Sometimes all that expressions and that thing that you use, because we do not give you too many terminologies to work with, and that is on purpose. Okay. So if you take a grammar book, the problem is they're going to use too many terms that may be unrecognizable, and then you'll have to scramble thinking what this is, go around checking for what it is, and then again you'll go back into complicated explanations. That much of thing is sincerely not needed for you guys. Our concentration is mostly on functional grammar, the kind of language learning which is useful for people, not the very detailed one. We are not going to become grammarians, right? That's for people who study these things in detail. So if it helps you go through, if you can find these topics, then you can find it, especially if it is something that comes with some exercises, then just go through those exercises and try to solve them. That could be of some practice to you. Content itself, I cannot recommend unless I have gone through it. Okay. So we start with the first one. Look at that. We are going to identify the function of each of the clauses: noun, adjectival, infinitival, and adverbial. So you'll first identify the subordinate clause and then tell me what they function as. Okay. First sentence. The ancient discipline of rhetoric was intended to prepare the beginner for tasks that involved speaking in public. Look at the sentence carefully, identify which part of it would be subordinate clause, and then look at what its function would be. The ancient discipline of rhetoric was intended to prepare the beginner for tasks that involved speaking in public. Yeah, try answering. Don't wait for the answers. The practice session for you.
It is an adjectival
Adjectival
clause that involves speaking in
Can't hear
public.
you. I am speaking. Am I audible to others?
Yes, ma'am, you
Yes,
are audible.
but sometimes your voice is jarring.
Sometimes your voice is not audible.
Oh, okay, I see this message too. Is it still problematic? Can you hear it better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Adjectival clause. Which part of this is adjectival clause?
That involves
involves-
speaking in
That
public.
information about
No, ma'am. Intended to prepare the beginner for task. I think this is subordinate.
information about the task, and
No, which part?
it is close
Okay,
to the
correct. That is correct. So that involved speaking in public is an example of adjectival clause, which talks about tasks, right? Somebody else was speaking about intended to prepare. Who was that?
It's me, ma'am.
Tanu. Yes, go ahead.
I think this is subordinate. But I don't know, ma'am.
No, what is subordinate clause? You tell me, no? Which part in the sentence? You tell me whatever your answer is. We'll see if it is right or wrong. No problem.
Intended to prepare the beginner for task.
Intended to prepare cannot be subordinate clause because verb is not a part of your subordinate clause, right? So if you look at this sentence, again, like I told you, when you have a sentence, you break this open. So if you look at subject, you have the ancient discipline of rhetoric. This becomes your subject, right? Was intended is your verb in its passive form, right? And you're right, Tanu, but the only difficulty was that you included intended as a part of it. That wouldn't come. So the ancient discipline of rhetoric, your subject, was intended, your passive verb, and then comes to prepare the beginner for tasks that involved speaking in public. So the whole of this is going to be your subordinate clause. Others who have said adjectival clause, you're also right, but this is an example of a clause within clause. It's an embedded clause here. So from here, from that onwards, you have your adjectival clause. And to prepare the beginner for tasks that involve speaking in public is your larger subordinate clause, okay, which is basically the object of this sentence. The ancient discipline of rhetoric was intended, and the subordinate clause here is the object of the passive verb intended. Okay, intent, sorry, not intended. So,
I have a question
to
here.
prepare the
So
beginner
prepare
for tasks
the
that
beginners
involve
for tasks.
Yeah, just a minute. Let me play. Sorry.
I have a question actually, means.
Yeah, can you wait for a minute so that I can finish this?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So to prepare the beginner for tasks that involve speaking in public is your subordinate clause, right, which acts as the object in this sentence. And within that, you have an embedded clause that involves speaking in public. That is your adjectival clause. To prepare the beginner for tasks that involve speaking in public is an example of infinitival clause or non-finite clause, as we call it. Okay. Get this point? Others, those of you listening? Yes, no, confusions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So you have the larger clause, which is an infinitival clause, within which you have the adjectival clause that involves speaking in public. It's an adjectival clause because it modifies your noun tasks. Okay. Okay. Now, what was your doubt, Purnendu?
My doubt was that prepare the beginners for task. It's a complete sentence in itself also, right? Means we are taking it as an object because it is related with to, right?
No,
That
I don't
to
see.
prepare the beginners for the task.
No. To prepare the beginners for the task is not a complete sentence.
No, just prepare the beginners for the task. You can say it as an order, giving order or command, that type of sentence it is. Prepare the beginners for task.
No. We have all these misconceptions because we are writing wrongly. That's why. Okay. To prepare the beginner for task, anything that comes as to is not something that can become a complete sentence on its own. You will have to add other things to make it complete. So for example, I can say to prepare the beginner for tasks that involves speaking in public was my responsibility. Then this is a full sentence. Without the verb and the rest of the part, I'm still just using a phrase. It will still remain a phrase, sometimes referred to as, in this case, the infinitive, sometimes also referred to as the preposition phrase. It's not complete sentence. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like it, but it's not. Not even sounds like it. It is actually not a full sentence, right?
If we remove that too, that the ancient discipline of rhetoric, it is a means it is main subject, right? After that was intended,
then it becomes an
is the verb.
imperative sentence. If you remove to, it becomes an imperative sentence. That's all. Prepare the beginners for the task. Yeah.
Yes, that I was asking.
Yes. Remove to and it becomes an imperative sentence, but with to it is not.
Since it comes with two, that's why we are taking it entire as an object. Is that so?
Yeah, right. That because it is not complete, no, by itself, and it also.
No, it is not complete. Then
does not have a proper verb that can give it a tense. When you consider the whole clauses, when you consider the whole clause, to prepare the beginner for tasks that involve speaking in public is tenseless, which is why you call it infinitival. This is one form of infinitival clause. You have others, like, the last class we discussed dressed in street clothes, this example. Fourth one, dressed in street clothes is an example. Again, the verb dressed there, this is not a tense giving verb, it is a participle. It's a form of past participle, right?
That verb has
and just thinking about the final round, thinking in that is not it is the ing participle. So participles cannot provide tense, and if you find them in a subordinate clause, then obviously it's an infinitival clause. Along with this ing and the ed participle, you also have the to infinitive, which is again an example of infinitival clause, because infinitives also cannot have tense. Okay. Yeah.
So infinitival clause also doesn't have tense.
No, they also don't have any. Infinitival clause, any one of them, whether ed participle, ing participle, or to infinitive verbs, none of them will have tense. Okay, which is why they're all called infinitival clauses. Presence of any of these three would make it infinitive. Okay. Others, rest of you have understood?
Yes, ma'am. I have a doubt in same
Yes.
sentence.
Go ahead.
Ma'am, intended is transitive or intransitive?
Intent is intransitive.
Ma'am, can't we ask intended for what?
You can put, but then all of them will be adverbials, because see, any verb which is which involves mental processes, they are intransitive in nature. They can't be transitive. Okay. Usually anything, believe, think, etc. All of these things, they're verbs that involve mental processes, and they're complete by themselves. You don't need anything to finish them off. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Second one. The classical view of how to present a case in argument involved a structure of sequent elements. Look at that sentence carefully.
Adverbial clause?
Sorry, come again.
Adverbial
clause.
Correct. So which part of it is subordinate?
It is showing manner
how to present a case in argument.
How to present a case in argument, right? This is again a very clear case of an adverbial clause. It very openly talks to you about how to present a case in argument. Represents, it answers the question how. So no, there is nothing to guess in here. This is a case of an adverbial clause. Okay. Anybody, any doubts? Okay. Now, the third one, stylistic propriety was formalized by the Roman rhetoricians, who distinguished the three levels of the grand, the middle, and the plain style. Very simple.
Adjectival clause.
Adjectival? Rest of you also agree with it? Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes.
Who is this? Tanu?
Yes.
Yes, Tanu.
Who is talking about the stylist property was formalized by the Roman?
Is it? See, who distinguished the three levels? What are they talking about? Who has to be somebody, right?
Okay.
Who is that? I told you the modifier, usually the modified item precedes it. What precedes who distinguished?
The Roman rhetorician.
The Roman rhetorician.
Roman rhetorician.
Correct. Yeah. So stylistic propriety is not, what is that? It cannot be it is not a person, right? Who is a relative pronoun used to talk about a person or about people, right? So Roman rhetoricians is what is being modified by who distinguish the three levels of grand, so on and so forth. So example of adjectival clause. Now, fourth one, from these ideas on style originated the notion of decorum, continually discussed by English Renaissance writers. From these ideas on style originated the notion of decorum, continually discussed by English Renaissance writers. Tell me which part of this is subordinate clause first.
From the ideas on the style originated, the notion of decorum is the clause. It is a noun clause acting as a subject.
It is a noun clause acting as a subject. Okay. So what kind of, oh, this is a noun clause you mean? Yeah, others, anybody?
Ma'am, I think it's
No
adverbial
answers by
clause.
anyone else?
Adjectival.
Sorry?
Adverbial
Ad-
clause, it is talking about the time.
Ma'am, I think it's adjectival.
Okay, noun clause, adjectival clause, adverbial clause. You tell me why. I have all the three answers now. Noun clause, somebody has already answered. So people who have told me about, sorry, adverbial clause and adjectival clause, you explain why this is. So, okay.
Ma'am, the line
So
from
before
the
telling me what is whether it is adverbial or tell me which part is the subordinate clause. What have you identified as subordinate clause?
from this idea on style
From these
origin
ideas on style originated the notion of decorum.
of decorum.
So how is it adverbial? What tells you this is adverbial? How did you identify this as adverbial? What happened? Who answered adverbial? You know, don't have answers now. I'm trying to. Okay, you think it is adjectival now. Okay. Now, why is it adjectival? Again, that should have an answer, no?
Ma'am, because these idea on style originated, this is talking about English Renaissance writers. I think that's why it's adjectival.
Okay. So what all of you are doing is you're doing something that we call as overreading, right? So in grammar, what do you do? All your analysis is based on segments and the segments relation to other segments in the sentence. In that case, even the position of each of these sentences are also very, very important. The answer to this question is noun clause, like somebody answered in the beginning. The first part, you know, which is why I've told you, please analyze your sentences as subject, object, predicates, right? I mean, subject, verb, object. You look at this part, all of you were able to identify this part as the subordinate clause, but the function is what is creating trouble. If I take this as the subordinate clause, right? I'm going to leave it there. I'm for the time being not going to analyze. Okay. Let's leave it there and move on. We look at the other part of the sentence. What is this part? Continually. How will you identify this part? Continually, what is it?
Adverb.
It's an adverb, right? It talks about how the verb discuss had happened, continually discussed. So adverb of manner for this verb discussed. Get this? Now what you have is by English Renaissance writers. This is your object, right? Okay, or object position. Let's not call it object, by English Renaissance writers, right? Now you look at this sentence. Do you find adjectival clause or adverbial clause anywhere?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. Okay.
Yes,
Understand?
ma'am.
Understood
Yes,
why
ma'am,
we call
understood.
it a noun clause, right? Because you have the verb, you have the object, you also have adverb. This is got nothing to do with the adjective or adverb here, right? This particular subordinate clause that we have identified, it's just a replacement to the subject here. You could have put anything else here, like say, instead of writing from these ideas on style originated the notion of decorum, continually discussed by English Renaissance writers, I could have put something else. Okay, and then finished it off. So this is one way you have to identify anything that occupies your noun position, sorry, the subject position on your object position has to be a noun clause. Get this? Don't get confused because there are too many words together. This can become a problem. Okay, so keep this in mind. Fifth one. Sorry. The study of rhetoric is complex because new conventions of performance for particular purposes are being generated all the time. This is easy. Which part is the subordinate clause in the sentence? Fifth one.
Because new conventions performance.
Correct. So what kind of clause? If anything gives you reason, then what kind of clause will it have to be?
Adverbial.
Adverbial.
Right? So because straight example of reason, and anything that gives you a reason as a subordinate clause, then that has to be an adverbial clause. Okay. So yes, okay, that is one thing. So fifth sentence is you have adverbial clause here. Sixth one, it is not surprising that myth should be a prominent element in the rhetoric of persuasion. It is not surprising that myth should be a prominent element in the rhetoric of persuasion. If you join the writing sessions that we do at a later on, not, I mean, the professional writing session we do at a later period of time, we particularly discuss this kind of constructions under style. But this is a very, 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 very common kind of sentence construction in academic prose and other kind of professional writing also. It is not surprising that myth should be a prominent element in the rhetoric of persuasion. Which part is a subordinate clause? That should be not
That-
difficult.
That should be
That myth should be
That myth should be a prominent element in the rhetoric of persuasion. This is your subordinate clause. What kind of clause?
adverbial.
adverbial.
Why?
Because it's giving a reason.
Where is it giving a reason?
That should manner.
What is it giving a reason for? Okay, look at this carefully. What if I say like this? Do you tell me if both these sentences mean the same? Okay, it is not surprising that myth should be a prominent element in the rhetoric of persuasion. This is a sentence we have. Now, instead of the sentence, if I say myth should be a prominent element in the rhetoric of persuasion, is not surprising. Do they mean the same?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Both of them are the same. Then what is this particular part standing for? Isn't this it standing for myth should be a prominent element in the rhetoric?
Yes.
Yes, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So if something is standing in place of, if it is talking about the subject, then what kind of clause has it to be?
It's a nominal clause.
Adjective.
No, not adjective. Okay, it stands in place of the other. Okay, which means it is not modifying. I can actually replace the whole of it with myth should be a prominent element, right? Yes, no, that is what we just did. No, I just removed it and I said myth should be a prominent element in the rhetoric of persuasion is not surprising. That is what it is not surprising that myth should be so on and so forth also means. Same, no? Both are same.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So if this can stand in place of the other, then this is an example of a nominal clause. For something to become an adjectival clause, it has to add
Ma'am, you're
some
not
information.
audible.
Something additional has to be said. You can't put in the place of that particular noun, right? Then it will be wrong. It won't give you any meaning. It will be ungrammatical. But here you can replace. If it can replace, then it's a case of a noun clause. Okay, nominal clause. Understand this? Yes? No? You all here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Now this is a special kind of a noun clause. I don't think was a noun clause in apposition discussed in this week. Am I not audible to you guys?
Ma'am, your voice is breaking in between.
Okay. Did you not hear my last thing? I have asked if noun clause in apposition was discussed with you for this week, week 2.
Yes, ma'am, we discussed in last class.
Noun clause in apposition?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is an example of noun clause in apposition. Okay. Wherein you can replace one with the other, right? You already have a subject, right? In the case of myth should be a prominent element in the rhetoric of persuasion is not surprising. If that was the sentence, then this part, no, myth should be a prominent element. That would have been a case of a noun clause, okay, normal noun clause. But because you have it here and it stands in place of the other, you can replace it. Whenever this replacement technique is possible, it is usually the noun clause in apposition, okay? Which means I can take out this it and put the whole of that subordinate clause that you have here in that place. See this? Okay. All right. Is that understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. If you have any doubts, just pause and ask. Not able to speak, at least leave it in the chat so that I can answer. No, I hope that sixth example is clear. It's a very important example, both its grammatical features as well as its importance in stylistics, by which I refer to the writing part. Okay, but that would come later. If you are interested, you can look at the professional writing classes. Just a minute. Okay, sorry. Okay, all right. So we will now look at the seventh one. In myths and parables, what we are asked to take literally is accompanied by one or more possible levels of interpretation. Which part is the subordinate clause here?
What we are asked to take literally.
Correct. What we are asked to take literally. And what is it functioning?
It's functioning as
Yes.
adjective.
So in
to
myths and parables.
parables.
Sorry.
It's an adjectival clause.
Look at it carefully. Is it adjectival? What place is it occupying? It is occupying the subject position, right? If you take out in myths and parables also, this is fine. I can say what we are asked to take literally is accompanied by one or more possible levels of interpretation. So in myths and parables, more or less acts like an adjunct in this sentence. We don't need it. Okay. Then you're left with what we are asked to take literally is accompanied by one or more possible levels of interpretation. And if what we are asked to take literally is your subordinate clause, what is the function it performs here? No, Purnendu, if it is adverbial, it does not give you extra information. It is nominal. Yeah, the second guess is right. It's nominal in nature, right? It occupies the subject position straight away. Look at that. You have your subject here and it's followed by is accompanied, passive form of the verb. Yet you have subject here, this part, followed by the verb, followed by your object, right? Clear case of noun clause. Can you all observe it? It's okay, right? This is easy. Okay, yes, no.
Ma'am, I have confusion that
Yes.
I felt what we are asked to take literally is talking about the subject matter of the myths and parables.
In myths and parables, sorry, again, you thought
I felt I
Thought
said
what?
that it is an adjectival clause because what we are asked to take literally, this part is talking about myths and parables.
In what way is it modifying? You explain that to me. What kind of modifications does it have?
It's talking about the things we learn in myths and parables.
No, yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah, what we are asked to take literally does not give you any addition. Is there anybody else who thinks that it does the same job? It doesn't look to me like that. Where does it modify? It does not talk about myths and parables in the sense that it modifies, because that is what I'm telling you. The test is you take out in myths and parables and nothing would happen to the sentence. Haven't you seen sentences like this? These are also kind of constructions in English. What we are asked to take literally is accompanied by one or more possible levels of interpretation. They're perfectly grammatical sentences. This in myths and parables can in fact be treated as adjunct in the sentence because you can have the sentence without it, right? It does not change the grammar. That's the point. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So it does not affect if you take out, it's a prepositional phrase, and if you take out that from the sentence, it does not make any change to it. It is still very grammatical to use it that way, right?
Right, ma'am.
So I don't see a modification, Shreya. If you can help me see through it, it would be nice. Otherwise, I would suggest you look at the sentence a little more carefully in terms of, the segments of the various grammatical segments that we have. And then you will, I think, be able to see it, because I'm not able to poke my brain to see it at something that is adjectival in nature. Okay. Adjectives will have to answer.
I understood what you meant to say.
Okay. So look at it, but you still look at your method of analysis and see if it is making sense grammatically. If it is not, then we'll have to rework. Okay. All right. So we look at the last three quickly. A view expressed by some modern critics is that creative writers are no more the complete masters of what they do than are any other writers. A pretty long sentence. Look at it a little carefully. Sometimes it's very simple. It's just the length. Which is the subordinate clause here?
That creative writers are no more the complete masters.
That
creative writers are no more the complete masters.
Creative writers are no more the complete masters of what they do than are any other writers, right? But it's a big chunk. Certainly we have other clauses, usually a case of embedded clause. But let's leave it right now for the moment. We look at the larger clause that creative writers are no more the complete masters of what they do than are any other writers. What do you think is the kind of clause? This is the larger one. Somebody in the chat. Okay. That creative writers are no more the complete masters of what they do than are any other.
Nominal clause.
Nominal clause, right? Nominal clause, because see, look at that. It is, you have a view expressed by some modern critics. The subject is your verb. That clause, the entire that clause, that creative writer, so on and so forth, is your object. So anything that comes in the object position has to be a nominal clause.
Nominal.
Fine. Okay. Now within that creative writers are no more the complete masters of
what they do
than are any other writers. Let's say embedded clause. So beginning from what they do than are any other writers is an example of what then? Again, a noun clause. Okay, so it's a noun clause within a noun clause. Okay, you can ask the question of what. So anything that answers the question what will have to be a nominal. Okay.
Is it necessary, ma'am, that any clause that answers the question of what is a nominal?
Yes, because what, if you ask the question what, the answer has to be something that is object like or people or something, right? So definitely it has to be a nominal clause.
Can you explain the meaning of that line number 9? Creative writers
We'll
are
go to 9, but
frequently
let's
blind
finish
to
this
their own
first.
intentions.
We're at 8 now. We'll finish that and go to 9 quickly. So, okay, this one understood everybody. 8.1. You have an embedded clause
Ma'am,
here.
here
The larger clause is a noun clause, and with yes.
Here, how the embedded subordinate clause, how is it acting? I mean, in the first part, it is acting as an object. So, what is the function of this noun clause?
It is just occupying the space of something else which is nominal in nature. Okay, when you do the larger analysis, you can do subject, verb, object. Okay. But when you're taking segments from within a clause, it's usually, you know, you will have to relate to them as word classes, whether, you know, they act as adjectives or are they taking the place of a noun, so on and so forth. Okay. Because within the clause, then again, you cannot do the other analysis. Okay. Unless you have like a full sentence. Here you don't have that. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So, 9th one, right? Creative writers are frequently blind to their own intentions and to the nature of what they are doing. It just means, Purnendu, that usually creative writers do not have, you know, any particular purpose to fulfill. Okay, they might be talking about a bunch of things together. So unlike how you write for, say, more professional writing, creative writers do not usually write for achieving a very particular purpose. It could be a bunch of something. So blind to their own intentions and to the nature of what they are doing means purposeless. Okay. All right. Okay. So now we look at the sentence as such. Creative writers are frequently blind to their own intention and to the nature of what they are doing. What is the subordinate clause here?
What they are doing?
No, which part of the sentence is a subordinate clause?
To their own intentions and to nature
Correct.
of what
To
they
their
are
own
doing.
intentions and to the nature of what they are doing. Okay. So you can, I told you already, if you have to, you know, okay, you tell me. Analyze and tell me.
To their own intentions and to the nature of what they are doing is an infinitival clause.
Look at the two here. This is again, something that you have to be careful about. Are the two used here part of infinitive, to infinitive? Do you see any verb there? To their own intentions, to the nature. Do you find a verb anywhere there?
No, ma'am.
No, right? So then you don't have a to infinitive there. What is a subordinate clause in that case? You could possibly only identify the
Ma'am, here and is a connector, no? Intentions and between intentions and to. It is connecting two
yeah, it is a
sentences.
connector. Yes, that's right. We'll keep this sentence for for the time being.
How can you explain the
I am
meaning of this
particularly
sentence?
sure that to their own intentions and to the nature of what they're doing. In both case, to is not an infinitive. So you can't analyze this as an infinitival clause. Probably,
Is it a noun clause, ma'am?
okay, we'll discuss this a little later. Just remind, sorry,
Is it a noun clause?
how will it be a noun clause? Which part of it?
I mean, if I ask the question, creative writers are frequently blind to what? I mean, then
Blind to what? No, you don't ask blind to what, you just ask what. Okay, and that question has to be blind to what? No. To their own intentions and to the, but even then this does not become a subordinate clause. Okay, we'll look at this a little later. Okay, I'll have to look at it in a little close quarters to understand what it is. Creative writers are frequently blind to their own intentions. Blind to what? Okay, we'll look at it. It's also because the verb is a be form, that's why. Okay, remind me this in the next class. Okay, one of you please take the initiative to keep this in mind. I will remember, but in case if I forget to take it up, please tell me. We have to look at this question. Last one, you cannot as a reader wholly appreciate the rhetorical sport of a convention or a style if you have a poor knowledge of literary language and conventions. This is easy. Which part will be a subordinate clause? Tenth one.
if you have a poor knowledge of literary language and conventions.
If you have a poor knowledge of literary language and conventions, and this is an example of what kind of clause? This is a condition because you have if there.
Adverbial clause.
Adverbial clause, right? So anything that can express condition or which answers the question under what conditions will have to be an adverbial clause. Okay, no doubts regarding that, right? So reason, condition, all of that will be a part of adverbial clause. Is that understood?
Yes, ma'am.
All of you? No questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, all right. So please keep practicing. This 9th question, I will look at it and let you know in the next class for sure. But our rest of the questions understood of how you analyze noun clause and adjectival clause won't come immediately to you. Take some practice, but at least do you know how to do the basic analysis now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So keep practicing. Try to find, if you're looking for books, then I would not suggest you to read through the content, but if they come up with exercises at the end of each of them, then it would be a nice thing to solve them. Okay, it will give you more practice. Also look at the practice assignments and everything so that you are more versed with this. But from the point of view of analysis, this is it. Okay, you'll have to concentrate more on how each of these subordinate clause function. Again, first step, please synthesize, break down your sentence into subject and the predicate, and within that verb and the object. Do your analysis based on each of those positions and the functions performed by the clauses that occupy, if at all you have a clause. And that would help you understand what function these clauses are performing. Okay, in the case of adjectival clauses, see that the modifying noun, the modifying clause and the modified noun are placed next to each other. If you have a case like that, then obviously the clause that follows is going to be a modifier clause. Okay, who, where, when, that, and which usually are relative pronouns. They come with relative clauses. All relative clauses are also adjectival clauses. So you can look for that as well in order to check whether something is an adjectival clause. For adverbial clauses, try to see if your clause answers questions like how, when, why, under what conditions, okay, or where, right, in what manner, okay, to what degree. If these questions are answered by your subordinate clause, then it's certainly going to be an adverbial clause. Okay. These are already uploaded, Shashi Kumar. You can find them under the supplementary tab for the English 2 course. Okay. This is already uploaded the last week, so you can access it from there. All of this you will find there. All right. So I will meet you next week again. Then we'll take up the remaining parts from week 2 and week 3 for the next class. But you can still bring your questions on clauses to the other classes too. No restriction on that. We might take up the questions probably towards the end of the session so that we don't compromise on what we have to do for that class. But you can still come with your questions to any of the sessions.
Ma'am, I have another
Okay.
question.
Yes, sure. Pune, it's already shared. Check the portal. I mean, I think, so again, supplementary tab, like I told Shashi Kumar, please check it. It's already uploaded. Last week we did upload. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Sure. So we'll meet next week then. See you all.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you.